Yeah.
They think you're Jehovah.
Yeah. Either or. They're not going to answer you.
Right.
They're not going to answer you. But most people spend more time now on their iPad and on their than they do on TV. You know why? A lot of them, they can watch TV right on their computer now.
Mm-hmm.
They go right on their computer and watch TV. And so they're sitting in front of this massive media presence, and we're not taking advantage of it. We got to take advantage of it. And will help grow our local churches. I've said this often. If we grow our local churches, the district's going to be stronger, the state is going to be stronger, the Church of God in Christ is going to be stronger, but more important than anything else, your local community is going to be stronger. Because if you got, let's look, see if this makes sense to you. Let's say you've got 5,000 people in your town. You got to live in a small town. You got 5,000 people in your town. You've got 200 that go to church. So you only have 200 people that really understands what it means to be church. If you double that number to 400, you just got 400 people now that got this spread out of the 500. And it'll keep replicating itself. And it's our job to raise the level of the Holy Spirit in our town. How do we do it? By getting more people to come to church. It doesn't do any good for us to jump from church to church. If you got 200, right. And I got 200, that's 400 people. If 100 get mad at you and come to me, I got 300, you got 400. We still only got 400 people out there living right, teaching the Bible. But you go get another 200, so now you got 4 and I got 200, I got 800. They've got 800 people out there. So what you do, you raise the level of the spiritual knowledge in your town. And that's what we got to do to make things work. How do we do it? We've got to use this medium. We've got to use this medium to make it happen. And so I'm encouraging all of us, and I wish I could talk to everybody about this because it really blessed me. We got to make sure we use that technology that's out there. It's not bad. It's not bad.
Sounds
it's
great.
good.
Sounds great.
And your daughter's an expert, man, user. You're expert. And I see your daughter too. I see what they post. They take videos and post it. I'll tell you who's using it that's doing a tremendous job. Pastor Marcel Fields, his new church, Overcomers, man, he's out there every day. And he's growing like crazy. He's out there on the internet. He does prayer in the morning. He posts every Sunday. He posts videos of his Sunday message. He posts a video of his Wednesday night Bible study. And it's just taking off, man. He's doing it in the media. He's doing it, and he's drawing a bunch of young people. Why? They're watching that media. They're watching that media. But media knows no age. Anybody can use it, and that's the most important thing. We have a man at our church just turned 80 years old. His name is M.L. Floyd. He's been going to the hospital visiting people for years. And you would think at that age, you just give up. I'm sitting there one day, and my phone lights up. It's a text. It's M.L. Floyd. He's going and bought him an iPhone, and he's learning to text. And then a few weeks later, he got a Facebook page. 80 years old. Well, at 80 years old, he decided, you know what? This is a medium that I need to be in. And I get texts from him all the time. When people in the hospital, he visits for us, he texts me. It's a medium we have to use. So we need to use it. Anybody got any questions on that before I go to the next thing they talked about?
When you were saying that you was getting contact from elders, I think Elder Williams' daughter every day about his condition, was that textbook or Facebook?
Facebook.
That's Facebook, okay.
Facebook. She was keeping everybody in the loop, and it was amazing. It was amazing. Dr. Kenneth Hammonds talked about transforming members into disciples. People join your church, but they'll put their name on and say, yeah, I'm saved, I joined the church. But they never get into the workings of the church. You understand what I mean? Mm-hmm. I have some members at our church who come every Sunday, pay good tithing, and you only see them on Sunday. And I believe they're saved. I got a president of Jolie Junior College. He's the former president of Jolie Junior College that has been coming to our church for the last year. He's in Florida now. He's a snowboarder. He'll be back next week. This man came in, and him and his wife are just blessing our church tremendously. And so I don't ask people to join the church. I believe if you plant good grass, the sheep will come. And I think sometimes we run folk away. We keep at when you're going to join, when you're going to join. When God tells them to join, they'll stay. When you force them to join, they're not going to stay.
All right.
When the Lord tells them it's time and they come in, they're going to stay. But if they join, you keep asking them to come, it just doesn't work. And so anyway, now my challenge is that to try to transform him into a disciple. He went to this church out on 80. He's saved, loved the Lord. He went to Rob Thompson's church. He came to our church, loved it, and hasn't gone back out there. But now, how do I transform him to a member that sits, a member that comes, loves the Lord, into a disciple, one that wants to go out and do what it says in 1 Corinthians 5 and 18. If any man, well, 17 says, if any man be in Christ, he's a new creature. Old things are passed away, and behold, all things come new. But the 18th verse says, all things are of God, who's reconciled us to him by Jesus Christ, and has given us the ministry of reconciliation. Right. Once we get saved, our job is to go out and to reconcile the world. Mm-hmm. And you don't need a pulpit to do that. Amen. You should do that every day. Every day. I used to tell people, when I walked into a meeting at Caterpillar, they'd be in there raising hell and cussing. I walk in, everything would change. Because they knew I was a preacher. They said, here comes the preacher. Here comes the preacher.
Right.
And man, they'd be in there raising the roof. Money wasn't right. We had problems, and raising the roof. I walk in, everything would change. One day, the plant manager, his name was Bob Macia. He told me, I was in there, and I was preaching a little bit about how we treat people right. He told me, he said, Dorris, he says, we love you as a preacher, but now you're a manager Caterpillar. Stay on the program. I wasn't crazy either. I knew that I needed that job. But one day his mother got sick, and he was upstate New York. And I got a call in his office. He said, man, I just got a call. My mother's sick. I'm on the next plane. But will you pray for my mother before I leave? The Lord spared his mother's life. Yes. He never complained again about me preaching. He never complained again about me preaching. And so, but our job is to help transform members into disciples. And when we do that, amen, and get people really committed, there are people who support our ministries, but they're not committed. And there's a difference between support and committed. I heard this years ago. It says, when you look at the bacon and eggs breakfast, the chicken supported the breakfast, but that pig, he committed. Right? That pig committed. He gave his life so you can have that bacon. And they said, what we want is committed people. I pick on him a lot, and I whoop him a lot. But this is one of the most committed men. Sister and Brother Brooks are the most committed people I've ever seen in the church. Never seen anybody more committed to the Lord and committed to ministry. Visit the people that are in the hospital and the nursing home. If they hear you sick in the middle of the night, they getting up. When we had a tragedy at our church last May, young man died suddenly, asthma attack, wonderful young man. I was on my way to the hospital, and the chaplain called me. He says, man, we're waiting for you to get here to call it. I said, to call what? He said, man, he didn't make it. I said, you told me he was bad. He said, we're waiting for you to get here. I called Brother Brooks, Sister Brooks. I called my wife first, said, you need to get up out of bed. We need to be there. And we were there with that family, still there with that family. But there are a lot of folks you call not getting up out of bed. Mm-hmm. They'll support you, but the commitment. But I just want to get there's not a man that I know that's more committed to ministry, committed to discipleship than Brother Brooks. And I just want to tell you that in front of all these men so they know there's people in the church that you hold in high esteem because they want to serve. And he is one. So how do I make more Brother Brookses in our church? How do I do that? How do I make everyone as dedicated and as committed as him? Well, first of all, only if God don't do it, it won't happen. You pray and ask God to give him that heart. Mm-hmm. But I also found out that any organization is going to take on one thing. You know what that is? It's going to take on the character of its leader. I don't care who you are, what you're doing, whether you're running a factory, whether you're running a church. An organization is going to take on the character of its leader. Because I don't care who you are, the leader is here, and the leader is the leader. You're not going to go above that leader. You're never going to go above your leader, because the leader's not going to allow you. The only way you're going to be more effective is your leader becomes more effective. Mm-hmm. And if your leader becomes more effective, the people in your church become more effective. If you got a stingy leader, you got folk ain't going to pay dollars. All right. If you got a liberal leader, folk will be liberal. All right. If you got a faithful leader, folks will be faithful. And let me tell you one thing, and I always say this, it was all God. We were just tools to be used. When we built our church, people said we couldn't do it against all odds. But what people saw was that our leadership team had the drive to give and to sacrifice. And when they saw our sacrifice, we raised so much money to build that church, it was just phenomenal. How the Lord, people just came. Every time there was a need, the people of God did it. They met the need. But if you'd had a leader and our leadership team, our deacons and our preachers, they got to take the first fruit of it. If they don't do it, and that's why I started this year. There's certain folk that won't preach. I've got, how many preachers, Brooks? 14, 15?
Yeah, well, yeah, 15 now, but you just said, matter of fact, you just named another one.
Yeah, so that's 16. 16 preachers, and I won't tell you who they are, because no one knows but me. There's 2 of them that won't preach. Why? Because they don't tithe. And I said, I'll talk to them. I said, look, last year, brother, you and your wife work at this, because you curse with a curse when you don't tithe. So I'm not going to have folks just curse with a curse laying hands on folk. Right? Mm-hmm. And it's the leader who has to do. You need to know who's tithing in your church. You need to know who's not tithing. Mm-hmm. Because they curse with a curse. Now, ain't that what the Bible said? That's right. And then if the leader don't deal with that, that cancer will spread through your church. It'll spread through your church. And so as we move down there, and let me tell you, I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert at all. I'm just telling you what I've seen that's worked and what will work if you allow it to work. So every leader has to stand up and lead, because anybody can sit back and wait for somebody else to do it. It takes a real leader. My wife bought me a new watch. I ain't even think the plastic off. It takes a real leader to lead. And let me tell you something. All y'all know it, because you've been doing this long in the meantime. You, my big brother. Lead's not easy. Right? It's not easy. Because I found out a lot when you're leading, you're going to get talked about. Folk ain't going to understand you. Yeah. And just like they'll get on Facebook, they won't mention your name, but all you got to do is read it. You know they talking about you. But you can't let it bother you. One thing, when we were building the church, and folks saying we couldn't do it, people in the neighborhood, my wife was at the hairdresser one day, and a woman walked in, and we moved out of our church into that church we rented, Shiloh. Woman walked in and threw her arms around me and said, baby, I'm so sorry. So why are you sorry? She said, we heard y'all lost y'all's house, y'all lost the church, y'all lost everything. And now you staying in Shiloh. And she said, where you hear this? It's all over town. Y'all lost everything. Y'all didn't sell that church, y'all lost it. And so she said, well, it's not true. She says, just come see us in about 8 months. But people will do that. Folks, when the Lord starts blessing you, time to break. I say that for friendship. When you built your church, there was probably folks that you really thought was your ace. Mm-hmm. As long as you was in that shack, they was your friend. Mm-hmm. But when the Lord blesses you, I say people will get what they call a spiritual attitude when the Lord blesses you. You're right. But what they're doing, Ella Stansberry, they're cutting off their blessing. Because I tell people at our church, if you want the Lord to bless you, get excited. I'm getting happy when he blesses somebody else. That's it. When the Lord blesses somebody else, you ought to get excited. You know, and let me tell you, before I even thought about I was going to be a pastor, before I even thought about building another church, I helped so many people build churches. I was the assistant pastor. I'd go places, and we went over to Gary. Man had just built a beautiful church and had no furniture. I said, go buy the furniture for your office. Pay for it. Paid for the stuff. Did that. Helped people. Never thought that one day it'd be my turn. Right. When it became my turn, them brothers didn't come see me. Right. But I couldn't stay focused on that. I had to stay focused on what the Lord told me to do. That's it. And when you stay focused on what the Lord told you to do, God will send a blessing from somebody else. That's a big key. He'll send a blessing somewhere else. I was sitting in the church. We was in there, and you know, anybody who built a new church the way we built, they can't tell you that they no lean days. We had been in there about 6 months, and it was lean. We never missed payroll. Lord bless us, we never missed a payroll. We never did anything like that. But it was lean. And a young man came in, a white gentleman who pastors a Assembly of God church, who I work with at Caterpillar. He quit his job. He walked away from a $150,000 a year job to go pastor a church for $10,000 a year. And the Lord had blessed him with a church in Morris. And he came excited about what God had done. And he said, I got to remodel it. I said, I'm going to sow into your ministry. And I'm so glad that I didn't have to call my wife and ask her. And my wife lets me give to the people of the Lord. Bless the Lord. And so I said, man, I'm going to sow into your ministry. This is what I'm going to give you. And I forgot to even tell her. The next day, which is a Saturday, I'm sitting at home, and the phone rang. It was a local businessman. He said, man, I want to be a blessing to your church. I said, what are you going to do? He said, I'm giving you a building in Arlington Heights. I'm giving it to you. Giving it to the prayer tower. I said, are you serious? What's the address? I said, now, what's the catch? He said, I'm giving it to you. He says, what did I do with it? He said, sell it, burn it down. He said, I don't care. He said, I'm giving it to you. So he gave me the address. I called Brother Brooks and my chairman deacon board, and I said, I'll go see it Monday. I said, I can't wait till Monday. Man, I called him. Brooks couldn't go. I called Brother Hamilton, and we ran up there and we saw this building. We just couldn't believe it. It was 2 miles down the street from Arlington Heights Racetrack on Highway 17. Phenomenal building. And so it took about a month. They gave us the building, just gave it to us. And then I found out what it was worth with the insurance. We had to have it insured. We had to insure. It was costing us about $500 a month to insure it. And so I told the prayer room, Mother Brooks, his wife,